I'm a pediatrician. I've been doing this for nearly a decade, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that the kids are the easy part. A fever is a fever. An ear infection is an ear infection. You diagnose, you treat, you give them a sticker, and they go home. The real challenge, the thing that makes me want to tear my hair out and drink gin straight from the bottle at 10 a.m., is the parents. It is always the parents. I've seen everything. The parents who treat a WebMD article like a holy text. The ones who are convinced their child's gluten-free, dairy-free, fun-free diet is the pinnacle of health, even as the kid looks like a Victorian ghost. The anti-vaxxers, of course, are a special breed of terrifying. I've learned to smile, to nod, to gently nudge them toward science without bruising their fragile, crystal-wielding egos. I thought I had developed a thick skin. I thought I was a master of a specific kind of medical diplomacy. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the Harrisons. They glided into my office one Tuesday afternoon, a couple named Roland and Genevieve. They looked like they were sculpted from reclaimed wood and smugness. In between them, clutching their hands, was their 5-year-old son, Caspian. The boy was pale, not just a little bit pale. He was the color of old parchment, with dark, hollowed-out circles under his eyes that made him look like a tiny, weary accountant. My mind immediately started cycling through possibilities: anemia, leukemia, a dozen other awful things. I opened my mouth to begin my questions, but Genevieve Harrison gave me a serene, beatific smile. "Doctor," she said, her voice like wind chimes in condescension, "we're just here for a professional opinion. We believe Caspian's energy field is simply misaligned." I took a slow, deliberate breath, the kind I usually reserve for when a toddler has just thrown a full sippy cup at my head. "Misaligned," I repeated, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Can you tell me a little more about his symptoms?" Roland, a man with a meticulously groomed beard that looked like it had its own life coach, stepped forward. "It's not about symptoms, doctor," he explained, as if I were a particularly slow student. "It's about holistic wellness. We've curated a completely pure lifestyle for Caspian." And then they began to list everything. Oh God, the list. It was a masterclass in modern, affluent paranoia. Caspian wasn't allowed to drink tap water, not even filtered. No, his water was a specific brand, bottled at the source in Fiji and flown over, because according to Genevieve it possessed a higher vibrational frequency. His food was all organic, naturally, but it went beyond that. Every vegetable had to be ethically sourced from a farm co-op where the farmers apparently sang to the plants. His diet was strictly vegan, not for any moral reason regarding animals, but because animal products contained the energy of fear and suffering. He didn't have any plastic toys. All his playthings were handcrafted from unvarnished, unburdened wood by an artisan in Vermont. I stared at them. They were completely serious. "Okay," I said, my pen hovering over his chart. "I understand you're very attentive to his diet. That's great. I'd just like to run a simple blood panel to check his iron and vitamin levels. He's looking quite pale, and it's a standard, non-invasive way to rule out a few things." Genevieve gasped a theatrical, horrified sound. She pulled Caspian closer. "Absolutely not," she said, her serene mask cracking. "We do not believe in piercing the skin. It creates a tear in his aura, a gateway for negative energies. It's a violent act." A violent act? A routine finger prick was a violent act. I wanted to scream. I wanted to show them a picture of a child with bacterial meningitis and ask them to define violent. Instead, I smiled my practiced, professional smile. "I see. Well, perhaps you could describe his energy levels. Has he been more tired than usual?" "He's not tired," Roland insisted, puffing out his chest. "He's in a state of deep, energetic contemplation. It's a sign of spiritual growth." I looked at Caspian. He wasn't contemplating anything. He was just sitting there, listless, a tiny, fragile boy being slowly starved of life by two well-intentioned, profoundly stupid zealots. The whole conversation felt like trying to explain chemistry to a houseplant. A very expensive, self-satisfied houseplant. I spent 20 minutes trying to reason with them, using gentle analogies, simple explanations. It was useless. Every medical fact I presented was deflected by a wall of pseudoscience, a fortress built of buzzwords like biodynamic, crystal-infused, and toxin-free. I left that appointment with a knot of pure, unadulterated rage tightening in my stomach. The Harrisons became a recurring nightmare. They'd bring Caspian in every week or two, not because they wanted my medical advice, but because they seemed to need an audience for their bizarre wellness theater. Each visit was a new chapter in their descent into madness, and I was their unwilling witness. Caspian, meanwhile, was getting worse. The paleness was one thing, but then other, more alarming signs started to appear. During one visit, while he was listlessly playing with a wooden block, I noticed a faint bruising on his gums. They were swollen and had a purplish tint. I asked him to open his mouth, and the metallic, slightly foul smell of blood hit me. Genevieve Rowland, I said, trying to keep the alarm out of my voice. His gums are bleeding. This is a significant symptom. Genevieve waved a dismissive hand. Oh, that's just a detox reaction. His body is purging the residual toxins from the city air. The city air. We were in a suburban clinic with a state-of-the-art air filtration system. The next time they came in, Caspian was limping. He winced every time he put weight on his right leg. When I gently palpated his shin, he cried out, a thin, weak sound that broke my heart. He's been complaining of leg pain, I said, looking directly at Roland. This needs to be investigated. We need to do an X-ray at the very least. No scans, Roland said firmly. The radiation is poison, we're addressing it. We have a sound healer coming twice a week. She uses tuning forks calibrated to the frequency of healthy bone tissue. It's ancient wisdom, doctor. Ancient wisdom. I was staring at a textbook case of something I had only ever read about, a disease I thought was confined to pirate ships and 18th century naval expeditions. The bleeding gums, the leg pain, the profound lethargy, the pale skin, it was scurvy, in the 21st century in a wealthy American suburb. A disease caused by a simple, catastrophic lack of vitamin C in orange a day would have prevented this. One single goddamn orange. My role as a passive observer was becoming unbearable. I was watching a child be tortured in slow motion by love. Every night I'd go home and read up on the legalities of reporting them. The threshold for intervention is high, designed to protect family autonomy. I was caught in a horrible limbo. I knew what was happening, but I didn't have the definitive, irrefutable proof that would stand up to the Harrisons' inevitable legal challenge. I felt like I was screaming into a vacuum, and the only sound that came out was the calm, professional tone of a doctor making a suggestion. The alarm in my head was deafening. The breaking point came on a Thursday. They didn't even have an appointment. Genevieve called the front desk in a state of controlled panic, and they squeezed her in. She carried Caspian into the exam room. He wasn't walking at all now. His face was puffy, his skin had a strange, sallow tint, and he was whimpering, a constant, low-grade sound of misery. He couldn't even sit up on the exam table. He just lay there, a limp doll in organic cotton pajamas. I took one look at him and all my professional detachment, all my carefully constructed patience evaporated. This was no longer a debate about wellness philosophies. This was a child in acute medical distress. That's it, I said. My voice was cold and hard, a tone I had never used with a patient's family before. We are done here. Genevieve blinked, taken aback. What do you mean? I was hoping you could recommend a poultice, perhaps something with comfrey root. I'm not recommending a poultice, I cut her off. I am telling you that you are going to take your son to the emergency room at the university hospital right now. He needs to be admitted. He needs intravenous lines, a full battery of tests, and immediate nutritional intervention. This is no longer a suggestion. Roland, who had followed her in, bristled. Now, hold on, we are his parents. We will not subject him to the brutalities of a hospital. We are his advocates. You are not his advocates, I shot back, the anger I had been swallowing for weeks finally boiling over. You are the cause of this. Your pure lifestyle is killing him. He is in excruciating pain, his bones are weak, his body can't heal itself. He is suffering from multiple severe nutritional deficiencies that are about to cause permanent damage, if they haven't already. Genevieve's eyes filled with tears of indignation. How dare you, we love our son more than anything. I don't doubt that you love him, I said, my voice shaking with rage. But your love is ignorant and it's become dangerous. So here are your choices. You can either walk out of this office and drive him directly to the ER, or you can stay here and wait for me to call Child Protective Services. And trust me, I stared them down one by one. I have my hand on the phone. I will report you for medical neglect. The choice is yours, but he is getting proper medical care today. One way or another. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by Caspian's soft whimpers. The Harrisons stared at me, their faces a mixture of shock, fury, and for the first time a flicker of fear. The word CPS was the one piece of dark magic that could pierce their bubble of self-righteousness. It was the only language they understood. Roland's jaw clenched, but he finally gave a stiff, defeated nod. Edit, wow, this blew up. I'm reading through the comments now and thank you for all the support. A lot of you are asking the same thing. Why did you wait so long to call CPS? Why wasn't that your first move? I get it, from the outside it seems obvious. Just pick up the phone. But I need you to understand, from a doctor's perspective, calling CPS is the nuclear option. It's not just a button you press. It's a move that can permanently shatter a family, and you have to be damn sure you're right and that you have the evidence to back it up. First, the legal threshold for medical neglect is surprisingly high and murky. It's not enough for a parent to be wrong, they have to be demonstrably, willfully harming the child in a way that can be proven in court. The Harrisons would have hired the best lawyers money can buy. They would have framed me as an aggressive agent of Big Pharma, attacking their gentle, natural parenting style. And in the early stages, with symptoms like paleness and fatigue, their defense would have been plausible to a judge who doesn't have a medical degree. They would have buried me in the hospital in lawsuits. Second, and this is the human part, a CPS investigation is traumatic. It's traumatic for the parents, obviously, but it's incredibly traumatic for the child. They get interviewed by strangers, sometimes separated from their parents. It creates a level of fear and mistrust that can last a lifetime. My primary duty is to the child, and that includes protecting them from that kind of trauma if there is any other way. You always try to educate and persuade first. You try to build a bridge. You only burn it down when you know for a fact the child will die if you don't. I had to wait until the physical evidence was so undeniable, the inability to walk, the bleeding, that no lawyer, no judge, no one could possibly argue it was just a misaligned aura. It was the worst judgment call of my career, and I will probably second-guess it for the rest of my life. The hospital was a circus. The Harrisons, stripped of their authority, transformed into a two-person insurgency. They were a nightmare for the nursing staff. I got a call from the attending physician on the pediatric floor less than 12 hours after Caspian was admitted. "Anya," he said, his voice weary, "your friends, the Harrisons. They tried to unplug the IV drip because they claimed the plastic tubing was leaching petrochemicals into their son's bloodstream." I closed my eyes. "I am so sorry, David." "That's not all," he continued. "A nurse caught Genevieve trying to light a bundle of sage on fire in the room to cleanse the negative energy. We had to have security explain to her that she can't perform a fire ritual next to an oxygen tank." Every update was more insane than the last. They questioned every procedure. They cross-examined nurses about the thread count of the hospital sheets. They smuggled in a cloudy brown liquid in a mason jar, which they called probiotic kelp broth, and tried to give it to Caspian instead of the hospital food. The staff had to put a literal guard on his room to ensure he was actually getting the prescribed treatment. Meanwhile, the test results started rolling in, and they were, in a word, biblical. It was exactly what I suspected, but worse. The official diagnosis was a trifecta of archaic, horrifying, and completely preventable diseases. First, severe scurvy. His vitamin C levels were so low they were barely detectable. The lab tech who ran the test apparently called the floor to ask if the sample had come from a historical reenactment. Second, rickets, the classic disease of Victorian chimney sweeps caused by a profound vitamin D deficiency. His bones were soft and brittle. The leg pain wasn't just some vague ache. It was the microscopic fractures of a skeleton that was failing to properly mineralize. The ancient wisdom of the tuning forks had done nothing. And the grand finale, the cherry on top of this shit sundae. Pernicious anemia from a critical lack of vitamin B12, a nutrient found almost exclusively in the animal products they so feared. That was the cause of his exhaustion and the neurological symptoms that were just beginning. I printed out the lab reports. I walked down to the pediatric ward. I found Roland and Genevieve arguing with a nutritionist about the virtues of activated charcoal. I didn't say a word. I just slapped the papers down on the table in front of them. "Here is your pure lifestyle," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Scurvy, rickets, anemia, you didn't align his energy field. You gave your son the diseases of a 17th century sailor. Congratulations." For the first time, they had no response. They just stared at the black and white printouts, at the cold, hard scientific proof of their failure. The crystal wall didn't just crack, it shattered into a million pieces. The cure, of course, was almost insultingly simple. There were no rare medicines, no complex surgeries. The treatment plan was a high-dose regimen of vitamin C, vitamin D, and B12 injections, followed by a diet. A normal, boring, balanced diet designed by the hospital nutritionist. It included things that probably sent shivers down the Harrisons' spines: eggs, cheese, chicken, and fish. It was the kind of food most kids eat every day without a second thought. CPS did a full investigation. Given the severity of the case and the Harrisons' initial resistance, they were assigned a case manager and forced to attend parenting classes and regular counseling. They complied, chastened and terrified of losing their son for good. I didn't see them for several months. Then one day, Caspian's name appeared on my schedule for a routine follow-up. I steeled myself for the encounter, not sure what to expect. I walked into the waiting room and I almost didn't recognize him. The boy sitting there was not the pale, fragile ghost I remembered. He was solid, his cheeks were pink and full. He was fidgeting and bouncing his legs with the restless energy of a healthy 5-year-old. He had grown, but that wasn't the most shocking part. The most shocking part was what he was eating. Caspian was holding a bright orange, puffy, corn-based snack. He was gleefully licking the neon orange dust off his fingers. He was eating a bag of Cheetos, and sitting on either side of him were Roland and Genevieve. They looked diminished, defeated. They watched their son devour the pinnacle of processed, artificial, junk food hell, and they didn't say a word. Roland's beard seemed less confident. Genevieve's serene smile was gone, replaced by a tight, weary expression. They saw me watching, and Genevieve gave me a small, tired nod. In that single silent moment, I saw the entire story's ironic, painful conclusion. They had tried to create a perfect, pure utopian child, and in doing so, they had almost killed him. And the cure, the thing that brought him back to life, was everything they despised. The world of science, of medicine, and yes, even of gloriously artificial cheese-flavored corn puffs had won. They loved their son enough to let him go, to let him be saved by the very things they had built their entire identity on rejecting. I finished the checkup. Caspian was, by every medical metric, thriving. He was a normal, healthy kid. As they were leaving, Roland paused at the door. He looked at me, and for the first time I didn't see a smug ideologue. I just saw a dad. Thank you, he said, the words sounding like they were physically painful for him to say. And then they were gone. I stood in the empty exam room for a long time. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I had won some great victory for science. I just felt tired, bone tired. This case didn't make me a better doctor. It didn't reinforce my faith in medicine. It just carved out a little more of my soul and left it empty. It left me with the chilling knowledge that sometimes the most dangerous thing in a child's life isn't a virus or a bacteria. It's an idea in their parents' heads. Final update. Hey everyone. I just wanted to thank you all for the comments and the private messages. It's been a lot. Reading your stories, your support, it helped more than you know. A few of you who are also in healthcare shared similar stories, and it's a strange, sad comfort to know I'm not alone in this. This whole ordeal with Caspian and the Harrisons taught me something, or maybe it just solidified something I already knew. My job isn't just about prescribing antibiotics or giving vaccines. It's not just about diagnosing the disease in the body. Sometimes, my most important job is to protect a child from the ones who love them most. It's a terrible, heartbreaking responsibility, and there's no prescription for it. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Thanks for listening.